Good morning once again to those of you in this very room, as well as to those of you online. Welcome. It's good to see you all, whether you're with us in person or online. So glad you're here. And speaking of being out and about, as you may know, Reverend Suzette, Reverend Sherry, and I, week before last, were at the Affiliated New Thought Network Anton Conference at Unity Village outside of Kansas City. We're there for the week, and just absolutely an amazing experience with Daniel Nahmod, Nemo Patel, Jeffon Seeley, and Lisa Benson. Just amazing music, wonderful messages. So it was a great gathering. So, and as always, wonderful to come home, especially when home is San Diego. So my topic for this morning is shaking up our worldview. And we're going to be talking about the word paradox and the concept of paradox. And I don't know about you, but I did do a little, I've probably used the word and heard the word, but wasn't real sure of exactly what it means. And what I found was, and this is from loveenglish.org. So ask somebody who English is not their first language, because I have a dear one who English is his second language, and he's like, well, why do you say it that way, and why does it mean that, and what are you doing with that? And I'm like, I know. So right. And if English is not your first language, I bet you can relate to that. So a paradox is a statement that appears to contradict itself, but actually contains some truth or logic. It's a powerful tool for writers and thinkers. That's you and me. Writers and thinkers to challenge assumptions and explore complex ideas. So that's what we're about today, is challenging assumptions and exploring complex ideas. The green button, for example, and I'll have many more examples for you later on, but the green button is true. The red button is false. So what does that mean? Right, because if the red button is false, that means, right, yeah. So, but just now, wait just a minute. I got to stop and think about that for a little while. So our hero for today is Janus. And Janus was, in ancient Roman religion and myth, Janus is the god of beginnings and transitions, and thereby of gates, doors, doorways, passages, and endings. He is usually depicted as having two faces, since he looks to the future as well as to the past. It is conventionally thought that the month of January is named after Janus. Kind of interesting. So the concept of looking forward, absolutely no question about it, black and white, versus, well, maybe there's more to this. So what we're going to talk about, the more to this part of that statement. So I'm so glad you're with me this morning. I found an article on the internet about paradoxes and Janus and leadership, and I would suggest that whether you're leading a team at work or leading children or grandchildren at home, or if you have any kind of a leadership role, there's an opportunity to be aware of this concept of paradox and to lead from your truth, but also taking your children or employees' ideas and thoughts and opinions into mind as well in making those decisions. Living in paradox invites us to find comfort in the mystery, possibility, and gray area rather than just the black and white. Playing with paradoxes allows us to stay open to many perspectives and possibilities, to not know, to be vulnerable and uncertain. Approaching the unanswerable questions of the universe with playfulness and curiosity provide us with unique opportunities to just be, without the need for an absolute answer or the need to be right. I need to be right. My great-grandfather once said, "Don't confuse me with facts. My mind is made up." And while I'm not that far along, still there is that, no, now if you'll just, I know I can change your mind if you just sit there long enough for me to talk to you. And we'll talk more about that in a little while. Not to say that I have a need for control, but I want to know. I want to know the when, where, what, how, why, all of that. And all of those questions that sometimes we don't have an answer for. I need to know my route. I need to be where I'm going, and I need to have a way to get there, ideally with me in control. Right? I need the car keys or the key card or something so that I can get off the airplane, get my luggage, go out into the rental car, and drive myself wherever it is. And from time to time, the universe gives me the opportunity to not have that opportunity and instead rely on it to get me where I need to go. Can we be comfortable in that knowing without having the absolute control, but at the same time, because we've stated our intention, knowing that somehow, some way that's going to happen for us? In this teaching, we're encouraged to be absolute. We do our affirmative prayer, state our intentions, what we want to receive, what we want to release, and then we say, and so it is. And by God, no pun intended, it's going to happen for us. But what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? What if the physical healing for our dear one that we're praying for doesn't happen in the way we expect it to? That's why I pray for perfect healing. What that means to me is perfect healing of that physical situation, so whatever is perfect for them, whatever is next for them, they step into it in ease and grace. Sometimes perfect healing, thankfully, sometimes perfect healing is the physical healing of whatever that was, the disease, the disorder, whatever it is, and they are healed and they get back to perfect health and go on with the rest of our lives. And sometimes the perfect healing is their transitioning to their next experience. How important it is for us to allow ourselves to allow that. Have a dear friend not long ago that lost, well, she not lost, but a younger family member made their transition, and we talked about this, and what I found, and most recently with my husband's passing 5 years ago this week, believe it or not. He was younger than me, and it's not supposed to be like that, because the older person is supposed to go first, and it shouldn't be, and it should be. And I was reminded of the words from Edwene Gaines that God doesn't have grandchildren. So each person, including us, have that relationship with life. And it's our relationship. And as much as we might want people that we love and family members and other people to be here for a really long time and to be healthy and happy and all the rest of that, that's not necessarily their path. And so the opportunity for us is to say, this is so not what I wanted, and that's okay. That's okay. What if we don't? So we're praying for a red car. I want a red car. I accept a red car. I vision it. I accept it. I want a red car, and so it is. I don't, by the way, but that's just as an example. And instead, what manifests for us is is a situation where we can get where we need to go at any hour of the day or night with ease and grace. Maybe what we really wanted was the red car, but more often than not, we want to be able to accomplish whatever it is, and that was our idea. The perfect job that turned, or the perfect source of income better than we could have imagined. I remember in Edween's book, The Four Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, she talks about this young woman that absolutely loves to travel, didn't have the money to travel, but she wants a job, she wants a work that she can travel and go where she wants to go and have a wonderful time and be compensated for her time. And so she manifested this relationship with an older woman, very wealthy elderly woman who liked to travel and needed a traveling companion, and she would pay for everything. So she traveled the world with this really nice lady, just absolutely had the time of her life. And then, oh, by the way, when the lady ultimately made her transition, was left enough money so that she could continue to travel and do what she wanted. How often do we limit our good to just that we can see? How often do we, in our financial abundance, how often do we limit our greater good to just, if I can just get a raise at work? But what if the universe has a better way for you, a different way, an easier way? So we do our affirmative prayer, our spiritual mind treatment on what we want, not how it's going to come to us. And allow, because we have our view and life has its view, we can allow life to do what life's going to do and bring us greater good than we could have possibly imagined. And then we say, yes, thank you, and more please. Remembering the story of the lotus being at home in muddy water, there's a Zen proverb about that. Can we bow to life as it is? Can we live in this mystery and this wonder? Because this thing called life is just, as you well know, it's just the goofiest thing. And there are days when that happens and that happens and that happens, and we say, yes, thank you, and more please. And then there are days when none of it happens the way we thought it was going to. But yet it's better than we could have imagined. And then, last thought in the bed before we go to sleep, next to the dog or the cat maybe, or the bird maybe. Yes, thank you, and more please. Can we be comfortable in that, not knowing, but trusting life to do what life does for us? So the concept of the paradox is, this is how it is, and by appearances, this is exactly how it is, except that it's really not. So I have a few examples for you. I had a good time with this, and I hope that you will as well. The more you hate a trait in someone else, the more likely you are avoiding it in yourself. Oh, baby, right? Yes. And yeah, right? Because I don't know about you, but I have rules. It's how it should be, my favorite word in the English language. It's, you should do this, and you act this way, and you behave yourself in this way. And I've begun questioning when I get really upset. Doesn't happen very often. I'm normally charming and sparkling and even-tempered. But every once in a while, my button just gets yanked off the wall and stepped on. And so I start to have that, and I don't know about you, but when my words or my thoughts start with, for the love of God, I know that I'm going down that road. And I start to have that thought, and the still small voice says, okay, what is it about this that bothers you so much? Why am I getting so upset about this? And is there a way to bring this back and not? And there is. There's always a way. But how often do we see somebody and they're disrespectful, or they're late, or they're, and you get to fill in the blank, but just those things that bother you so much about somebody else are those things within yourself that you can't look at. Because we could be just as, well, you might be charming and sparkling all the time, but I can be just as hateful and surly and cranky as the best politician on television. I could totally do that, but I can't. That's my shadow. That's my shadow. Yep. And I did, many years ago, I did some work with Debbie Ford, who has written several books about the concept of the shadow, along with Carl Jung. And in the workshop, she taught us all those things that just make you crazy, all those things that make you so angry. I am that. I am that. I choose to keep it under wraps, thankfully, but at any point. So the things that bother us so much in somebody else, we don't want to look at in ourselves very often. The more we try to impress people, the less impressed they'll be. Ever done that? You're having people over for dinner, and you've cleaned the house, you've cooked all day, you've just done this amazing dinner, and they're like, nice. And then we talk about the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs won, or whatever it is, but you just don't get or you are dressed to the nines, and you go to your function and nobody compliments you. The more you try to impress people, the less they'll be impressed. And the quote that came from me, and I absolutely love this, from Hamlet: "The lady doth protest too much, methinks." This was spoken by Queen Gertrude, referring to a character swearing to never remarry if her husband dies. Never knew where that came from, so now I know. So maybe we don't have to work so hard. As long as we impress ourselves, it doesn't matter so much what somebody else thinks. The more something scares you, the more you should probably do it. Do you have? Now, no. I'm not skydiving. I am not hang gliding. I am not bungee jumping. I'm not zip lining. So there's some things that no thanks, no. Although I rode the roller coaster in Disneyland at California Adventure, and it's one of those that does the whoop. I did, and with my eyes glued shut. And so my beloved is like, open your eyes. And I'm like, no. And I said, so we did it. And he said, well, mostly, but you had your eyes closed. Well, I have to crawl before I walk, before I run. So next time, if I can't get out of it, then I'll open my eyes. There's no logic to this because, however many thousand people a day ride this roller coaster, it's at Disneyland. It's going to be absolutely fine. I just don't want to. But I was really high, and no pun intended, but really high and proud of myself for the rest of the day because I did it, even with my eyes closed. So maybe the things that scare us, we should think about doing. My experience has been, and maybe yours as well, the more we learn, the more we find out how little we know. Because you open that book and just go down that road, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that, and wow, I didn't know that. Social media can remind us that the more connected we get, the more isolated we feel. And of course, that's because you're doing social media in your bedroom or in your living room and there's nobody there, and you're talking with people, but you're not talking with people. And there's nobody to reach out to and hold a hand or give a hug or those kinds of things. The more available something is, the less we will want it. Yeah. That's referred to as scarcity bias. So if there's not much of it, it's got to be really good. If I can get it anywhere, anytime, If Amazon can bring me a case of it tomorrow, yeah, that's good, but it's not that exciting. So scarcity bias. The best way to meet someone new is to not be looking for someone new. If you are looking for a new relationship, just go on about your business and allow the universe to bring that person to you at church, at the gym, at when you're at the grocery store. Just that's been my experience several times. When we stop searching so hard for whatever it is, the stars align, for lack of a better expression, and that most amazing experience comes to us. The more honest you are about your faults, the more people will think you are perfect. Don't you like that? Yes. Yeah. So this is me, because as we're able to say that, people recognize, wow, that's it. Those are your only faults? Wow. Pretty impressive. The more you argue with someone, the less likely you are to convince them. If you would just sit down for the next 3 or 4 hours and let me explain to you why you're wrong. If that's worked for you, I'd love to talk with you after the service, because most of the time, not so much. Not so much. The only certainty is that nothing is ever certain. Hasn't that been your experience? Yeah. And my favorite. Thank you. The only constant is change. I worked for a technology market research company, and I found the job at a small, independently owned company in La Jolla. Absolutely amazing people. Let me tell you. So IBM was our largest client. So it was really well founded and well grounded, and our offices were on North Torrey Pines Road. And if I stood up from my desk and looked right out there was the Torrey Pines golf course and then the ocean. So it was amazing, and they treated us so well, and the benefits were incredible, and it just was an amazing opportunity. Was there for about 24 years, and it was the greatest thing. And about 4 years into the adventure, the family decided to sell. And so they put this campaign together. And if you've ever been through a merger or acquisition, you know that it can be really scary stuff, because it's been really good, and we're a family, and we've got really good benefits, and we love this. And how's it going to change, and what's going to happen? And so it felt like it was a big truck, but probably not a big truck, but several boxes arrived in a few days, and they were these buttons, white background with red print, "Change is good." And so they were appearing everywhere. We had the fabric covered cubicle dividers, and they were stuck in the fabric. Senior management was wearing these buttons. They were appearing everywhere, and many of us wanted to say something that would have been incredibly inappropriate, but you can figure it out. Because, and it turned out that it was fine, but change for us human types very often, and even if you're going from a difficult situation to one that's better, it can be really scary. Several years ago, my manager at that job, we were changing something, and she said, and you might have heard this expression too, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And so we go on that, and even if the relationship, even if the job, even if whatever it is isn't doing it for me, at least I know the pitfalls versus getting into something new and going out of the frying pan into the fire. Right. Yeah. But the only constant is change. So the wholehearted life that we came here to live invites, encourages, and challenges us to embrace, to accept, to allow, to ultimately embrace all of this. Because that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Our physical bodies at 10:40 a.m. Pacific time on October 15th are different than they were when we first got up this morning. And they'll be different 2 hours from now because, of course, our cells are constantly growing and dying and all the rest of that. Nature around us is different. The sun, and the eclipse yesterday was pretty amazing. The nature around us is different. It's different than it was just a few minutes ago. So the collective we, are constantly growing and changing. And so the opportunity either is to hold on for dear life, no, I don't want this to change, or to say, and I'm quoting Louise Hay, I am safe. It's only change. I, the beloved, I, the essence, expression, and experience of spirit, am safe. The wholehearted life includes love and law, and includes not beating ourselves up with the Science of Mind textbook, and allowing ourselves to feel, to question, to be curious. Why does this keep happening? What do I really believe about this? In this paradox, what can I do if this isn't working for me? What can I do to heal a relationship or change a belief so that this becomes more of what I choose to experience? And of course, why does this bug me so much? It also allows us to say yes and to say no. It allows us to, and one of the big, and I was talking with a friend about this a while ago, one of the big paradoxes for me is when someone makes their transition, there is sorrow at the loss, but joy that they have experienced that perfect healing. And if it was a lingering illness, that they are out of pain, that the family is out of pain and able to begin to heal. So there's sorrow as well as joy in those situations. If you've stepped into a new job or a new relationship with someone, there might be a little trepidation because, again, the devil we don't know, but also joy and excitement in the possibility. These are all those paradoxes that we get to step into wholeheartedly, not knowing how it's going to turn out and knowing exactly how it's going to turn out, because we never walk alone into whatever experience it is. Sometimes the paradox shows up, and keeping in mind I'm speaking to myself, in my relationship with the universe and what I believe about things versus what I say I believe about things. Such as, do you ever say fixed income? Good answer. And if you do, I just so invite you to look at that because, and again, quoting Edwene Gaines, if your income is fixed, who fixed it? Isn't it possible? Of course it's possible. For if spirit really is the source of our financial good, is it possible for us to receive more than we could have imagined, to manifest that check in the mailbox? Oh, you overpaid on your escrow, on your insurance, on your mortgage, and so there's a check in the mailbox for $1,200 or whatever it is. But as we know, spirit has ways to bring that greater good to us better than we could have imagined, but only if we allow it to. So if you use that expression, brush your teeth and commit to, I invite you to think about committing to using my favorite affirmation. Tain't so. Tain't so. Tain't so. We have wonderful adventures on our bucket lists, perhaps. And then when you look at your bucket list, does the ego, it's not the still small voice, because the still small voice is loving and nurturing, but does the ego say, yeah, right, you're too old. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough energy. There's nobody to go with. And all those wonderful reasons why that couldn't possibly happen. And if that is your experience, I just invite you not to beat yourself up with it, but just be aware, and again, using my favorite affirmation, tain't so. Tain't so. Tain't so. We're going to sing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth, and Let It Begin With Me." And then go to Costco. Right? Yes. And throw cold water on the fire of love and compassion and understanding and all the rest of that, because for the here we go. For the love of God, it's noon on Sunday, and I'm not going, but it's noon on Sunday at Costco, just in time for lunch, and all the people that are trying to find their membership cards and all the rest of that. And if you go to the La Mesa Costco, you know they're constructing, and so there's a big part of the parking lot that's not available. I love picking on Costco. But the point is, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me in those wonderful experiences when I'm home with the dog, having dinner, and life is good. And when I'm at Costco and life is still good because breathe in. Yes, ultimately, yes. But breathe in and breathe out and know that an extra 5 minutes or whatever it takes is really going to be okay. When we do our affirmative prayer, our spiritual mind treatment, and say for whatever it is we're choosing to experience, and then say, and so it is, do we plan for that manifestation, or are we still looking for the lack and struggle? And the example of that several years ago was in Atlanta, traveling on business, great shopping mall up north of the city. And so I do my parking angel treatment for a parking place, ease and grace, because I'm on my lunch hour and don't have a lot of time. So drive into the parking lot and find myself in the back looking for spaces in the way back when I had just done my treatment work for a space up front. What are we expecting? What are we looking for? Are we looking for that we said we wanted, or are we still settling because Spirit can only give us what we're available to accept? So what if in this ridiculously amazing thing called life, we could come from that place of mystery, of curiosity, less black and white and more gray, allowing ourselves to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why that bothers me. I don't know why I'm having that experience. But coming to ourselves from that place of love and compassion and questioning. And recognizing that life is a process, not an event. I have another slide for you. I wonder what it is. Oh, because sometimes I'm a religious science minister. And so I have an image, and so I got to make sure my hair's fixed before I go to the grocery, and I've got to make sure that my life is perfect and everything is wonderful. In the book The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown talks about perfectionism, and she writes, "Perfectionism is not the same as striving to be your best. Perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. It is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. But it's a shield. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact it's the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight." So what if we just allowed ourselves to be, with all the joys and wonders and experiences and frustrations and ideas and opinions and everything else? What if we allowed that? Not to say that we're stuck with it, not to say that we're going to carry it with us for the rest of our lives, but just allow our beloved selves, our perfect selves in this moment. I don't like the word imperfect, and she wrote the book, so she can call it whatever she wants to. But what if we're perfect right now in our situation, recognizing that we'll be different in a day or a week or a month? But we're not only are we okay, but we're the beloved right here and right now. So for me, a big part of working with paradoxes and all the rest of that we've talked about is coming from that questioning, from that absoluteness that, yes, this is exactly how it is. I have all the answers. I know everything. I have to laugh when people are telling me what life is going to be like when we die. Yeah, really? Yep, you did? You did. You've been there. You know, you saw St. Peter. You marched through the pearly gates. You saw all the dogs and cats over that way. You saw Moses and Abraham and everybody else. So you know how this is going to be. What if we could be comfortable in our not knowing? What if it's okay to, I don't know, and it's okay. Great quote from Ernest Holmes. What we must avoid, however, is the confusion which arises from a belief in final revelations, from the belief that all truth is at last discovered, or that some one person or some one system of thought has delivered the last word. There are no finalities in any science, any philosophy, or any religion. Through the continual emergence of the creative principle, any last finality proves to be but the beginning of a new creative series. Let me give that to you again. Through the continual emergence of the creative principle, any last finality proves to be but the beginning of a new creative series. This eternal spiral, finding its base in the everlasting reality, will never cease to emerge. Because if we know everything, and perhaps you have people in your life who think they do, and that's okay. But if we know everything, there's nothing, if we've been everywhere, if we've had everything, if we've done everything, there's no point in hanging out. And I don't know about you, but I plan to be here for a really long time because there's lots more to do, more to discover, more to experience, more to learn, more to heal, more to make a mess of and then clean up. That's the joy of this experience. That's why we're here. That's absolutely why we're here. Because, quoting the wisdom of Buddha, the root of suffering is attachment. So what if we don't know? What if we don't know? But we know what we know, and what we know is that we're the beloved, that we are the essence, expression, and experience of spirit, that we can say yes, thank you, and more please to whatever it is, and know that life will always respond. So our homework for the week is to consider, coming from this curiosity, the mystery, the wonder, questioning what greater good life has for us, from the yes, thank you, and more please. So with that in mind, join me in the light for just a moment. So staying in this consciousness of oneness, we give great thanks for the opportunity to be back together today, for the reminder that we really are the beloved, that there's no God but rather God expressing as each of us and everyone we meet. Every situation, every experience, regardless of how we judge it or how it looks, we know and accept that Spirit is right there in the midst of that. So we move forward today in this consciousness and this thought of possibility, of curiosity, of mystery, of wondering, knowing truly that the best is yet to be. So for this beloved community, for our time together, we give great thanks. Together we say, and so it is. Thanks, everybody.